It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mike Koob, who is my fellow founder of the Multi-Faith Alliance of Climate Stewards. He also is an active member of the Methodist Church in Middletown and helps lead that green team, and is very active in the Methodist conventions statewide in driving a response to climate change. Mike's a great leader, a great speaker, and he's been in Annapolis, I think, more than most people I know, as an advocate.
Thank you, Barb. Very generous of you. Mobilize Frederick. Wow, what an ambitious program today, covering so much. So many topics in a very wide scope. As Bill McKibben says, and his name has not been mentioned today as far as I can tell, and I know you all know who he is, writer, educator, founder, co-founder of 350.org, and now Third Act, says that there's no silver bullet, there's only silver buckshot. And that's also reflective in Project Drawdown, which catalogs the many, many things that we need to do to address the climate emergency. And wow, did we cover a lot of that ground today. It's so wonderful. We do need to widen the conversation. And how do we do that? How do we do that? We have to, when we mobilize Frederick, we have to mobilize everyone. And here's one thing I've been thinking about. On the front page of the paper today, we got the news in the Frederick News Post that I know you all know about, that the county passed the bag ban. Yeah, the city, but we want the county to do it as well. The city passed the bag ban. Comment sections on Twitter and in the comment section in the paper, I always go to them. Anything to do with the environment or climate, there's always the rude comment, the dismissive. And I always expect that, but I don't get discouraged because I know about a longitudinal study called the Six Americas. It's called Six Americas, and it's run by Yale and another group, and they say dismissives are only a small part of the population, 9 to 10%. And that most people are either alarmed or concerned, a majority are, and there are some people that just don't know. And that's our job, is to get those people that just don't know or may be confused, to get them, to give us the supermajority. And so in the bag ban, we're going to have many opportunities to talk to people who just don't know or are confused. Why are we doing something like this? And one resource I would point you to, it was on the slide but not mentioned, is the Story of Stuff project. The original YouTube video was about 20 minutes long. There is a shorter video, only 4 minutes long, about plastic, the story of plastic. Take a look at it. It gives you good talking points about why we did this, why we support it, and it would help those people that need to know more. We're never going to win over the dismissives. The Max group that I'm part of, we've been working hard on Electrify Everything. We have speakers that have talked in churches, libraries, and community groups about this topic. So we're reaching more people. Reach out to us if there's a group you want us to talk to. We say that we're wired up and ready to go and that we're turning away from burning. One of the speakers said we need to go faster. Yes, we need to go faster. We need to go big. And winning slowly in this transition is losing. So we got to move. We got to move fast. We got to get people. We got to get that supermajority. I got to go to Bill McKibben again. He has an article in Mothers Jones, his current issue. He says, "Yes, in my backyard, really, building out the green infrastructure." Okay, we got to change our thought processes there. Justice is an important concept to me. I'm so glad today there was a mention of the environmental justice around health and heat. And finally, I've also joined the recently newly formed group called Third Act in one of their actions in downtown D.C., but they did this across the country. We have a campaign that recognizes, first off, that maybe your biggest carbon footprint is who you bank with. And so Bank of America and Chase and Wells Fargo and the other big banks are financing the build-out of new pipelines and export facilities, exactly the things that we have to stop building. And the Third Act concept is it's people over 60 years old who maybe have time because they're retired, and this is a valuable thing to do, and we can't leave it all on the youth activists. Thank goodness for the youth activists, and I'm really looking forward in a minute to listening to Davin, Faris talk about the Sunrise Movement and the hub here in Frederick and the work they're doing. But the elders, the people in the Third Act, can't put it, we have to have their back, and we can't expect them to also pass advanced placement calculus and save the world at the same time. So really happy to be listening to Davin here. So please welcome Davin.
Well, Mike, I should have just had you introduce Davin because you were doing a good job there. So Davin Faris, for anybody who doesn't know him yet, is a high school senior and climate justice organizer in Frederick. In 2020, he co-founded the Sunrise Movement Frederick Hub and is currently one of their hub coordinators. He lives on a sustainable farm and had a childhood filled with forests and streams, making the climate crisis deeply personal to him. When not working with Sunrise, he loves to write and spend time out in nature. So, welcome, Davin.
Hi, and thank you. Some wonderful speakers today, and I'm going to be talking about hope and direct action. As Karen mentioned, I'm a student climate justice organizer and hub coordinator of Sunrise Frederick. So at a time when hopelessness and stress seem to be everywhere, the environment is front of mind for many of us. 64% of Americans worry about climate change, and 1 in 10 are anxious about it at least several days per week. Anthony Lazarowitz, a Yale researcher, says of this trend, many of the worried are alarmed about climate change but don't know what to do. They're actually quite eager to do something, but have never been asked by someone they like and trust. Maybe that resonates for you. I know it does for me. And part of the difficulty in addressing this growing anxiety is that it's not unfounded. As you all know, there is a lot to be worried about. But despair does nothing to fix the problems at hand. On the contrary, it enables passive hand-wringing and inaction. By choosing the opposite path, being deliberately and passionately optimistic, and helping others do the same, we have a far better chance of effecting substantive change. So, what can we do? We can come together in schools, houses of worship, volunteer groups. We can celebrate every step forward, every vote, every tin can picked up off the street and recycled. And maybe it makes just a fractional difference, but I will take a fractional difference towards a better and more livable future. And the kind of community that can be found through that sort of action is deeply meaningful. A lot of my closest friends I've met and gotten to know through work with the Sunrise Movement. Collective action is the most effective response to climate anxiety, far more so than individual efforts. One of the most meaningful experiences that I've had was at the Grant Town coal plant blockade last spring, where 16 protesters were arrested. The goal was to draw press attention to the dangers of coal pollution in West Virginia and to the fact that the region's senator was drawing millions of dollars in profits from the coal plant supplier while blocking climate action nationally. Protesters chained their arms together across the gates to the coal plant, while the rest of us chanted and sang and helped handle cops and traffic. It was the most direct demonstration I've been to, and it was incredible. Surrounded by police and in the pouring rain, people laughed and celebrated. That kind of experience instills hope that lasts and that easily coexists with bleak climate science, because you know you are never alone in the fight. Just last week, the youth-led organization Climate Defiance orchestrated a demonstration at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, protesting the lack of media coverage for the climate crisis. In spaces like that, there's a sense of shared liberation and deep community. When you march in the street, singing with the voice of 1,000 people, or when you have a conversation with a stranger and you see them really get it. Moving forward with that kind of hope is where real change begins. And to be clear, civil disobedience is a powerful way of taking action. But for those who aren't comfortable with that degree of disruption or can't risk arrest, there are lots of meaningful paths. In my group, Sunrise Frederick, we've been working recently for a school climate resolution. You can sign our petition in support here. We're calling on the Board of Education to pass a resolution modeled on one from Prince George's County, which passed in 2019, with specific sustainability goals drawn from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change standards for electrification and waste management. We've been talking to officials, writing, researching. We've been collaborating with groups like Mobilize Frederick on their Green Schools campaign. And we're on the schedule to present to the Board of Education at the end of June. So please make sure to sign and share our petition with everyone you know in the county. And that's another kind of collective action. Every time, these are our goals. And that's another kind of collective action, because every time we finish a meeting with the next steps for research or emails, I just feel energized. Like a group of people who care really can change the world, even a little. I feel light. And so I want to ask all of you, where will you find that light? Global warming is the greatest challenge humanity has faced, the greatest threat. But I believe it can be the greatest opportunity. It's a wake-up call to an outmoded way of life that has never been founded in reality or sustainability. It underlines the inequities and fallacies we've learned to ignore. In phasing out fossil fuels, we'll also address a public health crisis of air pollution, especially prevalent in communities of color. The next generation of walkable cities could foster closer connections within communities, less stratification, with green spaces, parks, forests, and gardens, to draw down carbon, but also to remind us what's beautiful. Electrified, distributed public transit systems can make it possible for people to commute and travel cheaply. And that infrastructure overhaul itself is an opportunity for the creation of millions of good-paying green jobs, especially in areas dependent on fossil fuel employment. We need a mobilization at every level, by every demographic, in every institution. Say that one way, and it can sound overwhelming, despairing. But look at it differently, and it can be profoundly exciting. Because we have an opportunity to build the world we want and deserve. A cleaner, greener, kinder, and more connected world. And hope. Radical, unforgiving hope is the heart of that change. All we have to do to find it is take action. March in the street, join a sit-in, call our senators, find a community. We're all living day by day, but when we look back on our lives, we will want to see that we did something real, something brave. So, what do you want to do? Thank you.
So there you have it.